What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel. Week 13 preview predictions are continuing today, the last one of the week here. We're going to be talking about the Iron Bowl. It's the Alabama Crimson Tide going on the road to face the Auburn Tigers. And if you are a Crimson Tide Crimson Tide fan out there watching this one, you know good and well that you cannot discount Auburn, especially in a year like this. College football playoff hopes on the line here for the Alabama Crimson Tide, and for the Auburn Tigers, a chance to spoil them. We're going to dive into everything here, Crimson Tide and Tigers in this rivalry week matchup. But before we do that, happy Turkey Day to everyone out there that celebrates. We hope you're enjoying some good football, some good time with family, friends, and thank you for taking time out of, I'm sure, your busy day to watch my video. It does mean a lot to me, and if you want to continue to show support for this channel, you can do so by hitting the subscribe button, ringing the bell. That's the best way to support me. Finish out watching this video, and also like, comment, share, and anything you do to interact with the channel helps to support it, so it does mean a lot to me, whatever you guys are willing and or able to do. But let's dive on into this rivalry week matchup, the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Auburn Tigers. Usually a really, really fun, very competitive, very good game to watch. And again, like I said, all the Crimson Tide fans, and I'm sure college football fans out there know, you cannot discount Auburn in a year like this. And I'll talk more about why in a second. There are a lot of reasons as to why. But let's dive on into the stats that both these teams have put up so far this season. We will start with the road team, and that's the Alabama Crimson Tide. Ever since Jalen Milroe has really settled into his role with this offense, it's an offense that has just been clicking on all cylinders, and it's starting to look really, really dangerous. I'll talk more about that later. But Jalen Milroe, took him a little bit of time to settle in, but now playing really, really well. 2,267 yards on 66% completion percentage. 19 touchdowns and 6 interceptions on the season for the Crimson Tide quarterback. He's got plenty of weapons to work with. Jermaine Burton, Isaiah Bond, Kobe Prentice, CJ Dupree, Amari Niblack, among many other weapons that show their face here and there for the Crimson Tide offense, as well as his two weapons in the running back room, Jace McClellan and Roydell Williams. Oh, and we know that Jalen Milroe can and will get outside of the pocket and run the football as well. But there is an Achilles heel to the offense, and you can see it on the stat sheet in front of you. No, it is not third down. So they're really good on third downs, and it isn't even turnovers, even though they do have a tendency to have some problems with turnovers here and there, and it's going to be a huge part of this game. No, it is the offensive line. Statistically, one of the worst offensive lines in the country. Now, they have been able to clean it up, and they have been performing better and better as the season has gone along. But this is a Crimson Tide offensive line that, for the most part this season, has just not been great. And it cannot buckle here, and it cannot get this offense into third and long situations, because even though this Auburn defense, not statistically an elite, a tremendous defense, it will make you pay. And again, I'll talk more about why here in a second. But moving on over to the defensive side for the Alabama Crimson Tide, for as much as a pass rush as this offensive line may allow, we know the pass rush on the other side on the defense is legit. It is the real deal. You got some of the best pass rushers in the entire country. Justin Boygby, Dallas Turner, Chris Braswell, among many other guys that can generate pressure in opponents' backfields here in this game and throughout the season as well. But it also has some of the best members of the. It also has some of the best secondary players in the entire country. You have one of the best lockdown corners in the country, if not the best, in Kool-Aid McKinstry. Terrion Arnold is an absolute ball hawk. He has 10 pass defended and 3 picks so far this season. To couple with all of that, the secondary is 37 pass defended and 10 picks. Again, 33 sacks by this defensive front. It also has a really good rush defense. They're really good on third down. They can and will force the issue with turnovers as well. This is just a really good Alabama team from top to bottom, and it's really starting to round it into form here, and it is clicking on all cylinders now that we are down the stretch here this season. And this is an Auburn team that is very much so quite the opposite. It has stumbled, and you go back to last week's performance against New Mexico State, it just simply got plastered. It was not ready. It was not prepared to play that game. Maybe you could say they were looking ahead to this matchup here with the Alabama Crimson Tide, but you just shelled out $1.8 million to get your you-know-what kicked. So Auburn is going to look for a huge bounce-back performance here. And offensively, well, that's going to need to start with the quarterback position. This is statistically probably one of the worst pass units in the entire country. Peyton Thorne has just not found it this year. 1,580 yards. That's all he has. 14 touchdowns and 7 picks. Again, turnovers can be problems for him too, but we know that this is an offense that starts with the ground game. They're averaging almost 200 yards through the ground, mainly because, again, their passing attack is fairly lackluster. They don't have a wide receiver. They don't have a pass catcher, I should say, over 350 yards on the year. Now, granted, that is being very, very nitpicky because you do have Rivaldo Fairweather, who's an FIU transfer at tight end that has 349. So I'll say they don't have a pass catcher over 400 yards or even relatively close to it. But again, this rushing attack is what gets it done. Jarquez Hunter in the backfield is averaging 5.8 yards per carry. He is a really good back. Brian Beatty is back there as well. And then Peyton Thorne, he can get outside of the pocket and run, is averaging 4.2 yards per carry on the season, does have 3 rushing touchdowns there as well. And we know this team can be more efficient on third down. We know the offensive line can play better. We know they can limit turnovers here, but that's exactly what the defense is going to try to force. Again, statistically, not a elite defense by any means, but it does show up big, and it is really good in a lot of statistical categories. Sure, they may not be the most elite pass defense. Sure, they may not be the most elite rush defense, but this defense has a tendency to bend, but doesn't break, and it does that by being able to force pressure, forcing teams in the third and longs. You see 27 sacks on the season. They're a pretty good third down defense. They're right around that 30 to 31% range, and they force turnovers. Auburn has been very competitive in a lot of games that really they should have been blown out in. Why? Takeaways. Why were they able to, again, come back and beat the Arkansas Razorbacks? Turnovers. How could they keep it close with Georgia? Turnovers. They have been the key here for Auburn this year in order to keep games close, or even in some instances be able to pull some games out, which leads me into my keys to the game. I call it the what to watch for. It really is the keys to the game. It's just some things I think you should keep an eye on when and / if you tune in to this one. We'll tell you where to watch it in a minute. But let's start out with, again, the road team, the 8th ranked and college football playoff hopeful Alabama Crimson Tide. Milroe is finally settled in, and the offense is dangerous. I have talked about this already before, but this is an offense that is really starting to click. There you go, click on all cylinders. They also have a really good place kicker in Will Reichard. So even if the offense stumbles at the goal line, hey, Will Reichard is there to put in the 3 points. But again, this is an offense that hasn't really stumbled as of late. They're really going. McClellan is running really well. Milroe has formed some great chemistry with a lot of the offensive weapons that he has. And again, the offensive line, even though statistically it is not good whatsoever, it has gotten better. It has gotten better, believe it or not. Now, is the offensive line still a weakness? Yes, and it can't be here in this game, especially because Auburn can and will force pressure, but the offense is really clicking. If Milroe can get the ball out fast, create those explosive plays, and if the offensive line from time to time can give him time, boy, this offense sure is dangerous. If you are the Alabama Crimson Tide defense, though, you have a good enough pass rush, you have a good enough rush defense to throw everything you have at the run and then go out and make Peyton Thorne and this Auburn Tiger wide receiver room win the game. That is the game plan here. You can shell out everything to the run. You have a really, really good defensive front, a lot of great pass rushers here, and it's just what Auburn runs. Really, for every one pass that for every pass play that Auburn calls, they call 2 or 3 run plays. So you can shell out everything against the run, and you have a good enough secondary to really challenge Peyton Thorne here, but make Peyton Thorne in this pass catching room have the best game they have so far this season. But what have I talked about, right? Do not give the Tigers extra opportunities. Turnovers. It's how Auburn has stayed in games this season. It's how they've kept games close. It's even how they've been able to pull off some wins this season as well. But any hopes of a win here from the Auburn Tigers has to see the offense, specifically Peyton Thorne, this pass catching room, and the offensive line play its best game of the season by a long mile. This is an offense that, hey, you're probably going to have to create the explosive play or two to really be able to get it by this Crimson Tide defense. Of course, you're going to need to run game to show up in a big way. You're going to need Hunter and even Peyton Thorne to get outside of the pocket and run really, really well. But this is an offense that has to be balanced. It can't turn the football over, and it has to control the clock. And it has to be able to get this Alabama defense reeling and on its heels. It can't be the other way around, which is obviously the more likely of the two to happen. Defensively, provide pressure to Jalen Milroe. If you're going to be able to get pressure into the backfield, Milroe, I don't believe statistically is that great under pressure. However, he does have the tendency to make some plays. So if you provide pressure to Milroe, you got to be able to get him on the ground. And again, force those takeaways that have been so crucial for this Auburn defense all year long. Force the takeaways, force Alabama into some third down and longs, force them into uncomfortable situations and make them turn the football over. And another factor that is going Auburn's way, you can never count Hugh Freeze or, for a matter of fact, this Auburn Tiger team out. What has Hugh Freeze done? Well, he's one of the very few coaches to beat Nick Saban in back-to-back seasons. Now, again, did not beat the Alabama Crimson Tide with the Liberty Flames, of course, but coming in here, Hugh Freeze is a coach that knows what it takes to beat Nick Saban. This is an Auburn team and an Auburn program that knows what it takes to beat Alabama, especially in a situation like this. You take a look at those two records, very on the opposite end of the spectrum, right? Auburn, no hopes of an SEC title game berth. They really have not been playing their best football as of late. You just got smacked by a New Mexico State team that, for the record, is pretty good, but you really had no business losing that game. And Alabama's starting to play well. Everything is on the line here for the Crimson Tide. We've seen this story before, and a lot of times Auburn has been able to come away victorious. I just don't see it. I don't think Auburn has the offensive capacity to be able to keep up. Now, are the Tigers going to make this game interesting? Yes, I think the Tigers have the opportunity to make this game a whole lot closer than really Auburn has any business keeping it that close. But I do think with the offensive firepower and the defensive prowess, the Crimson Tide maybe will turn the football over early, but I think they're going to be able to overcome that. They're going to make the big plays. Jalen Milroe, after some early struggles, will settle in, and the Crimson Tide stay alive. If they can go win the SEC championship game, got a pretty good shot to get in to the college football playoff. Let me know your thoughts on this game in the comment section down below. Hey, we'll be uploading a fun video on the 12-team playoff field and what I think it's going to do for college football here tomorrow. That does it for preview predictions. Again, happy Turkey Day to those of you out there that celebrate. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.